to what I was saying. Could be us.
Welcome to Big Thursday, Week 11 edition. And last week was a great week in the NFL with the great weekend in general with the Masters. We had a great day with the Masters. Justin Johnson getting the victory, and then we rolled right into watching Kyler Murray throw that wild pass to DeAndre Hopkins to win that game. Patriots also beat the Ravens, which is crazy. The Bears continue to not have an offense, so nothing is new. But let's get rolling. We've got a big week. We're going to discuss some of the games from last week, and then we'll roll into our picks for this week. Okay, let's start right now with the games from last week. We're going to start with one of my favorite games of the week, obviously. The New York Football Giants beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Jesse, what's your takeaway from that football game?
Giants have a defense. That's my biggest takeaway from this game is that Daniel Jones, he wasn't the star of the show. Yeah, he's like averaging like over like 5 yards a carry. Like he's like Lamar Jackson all of a sudden. But on the nothing special, I would say, was happening on the offensive side. On the defensive side, I feel like that's where that's why I didn't think they would win this game, is because I didn't think their defense could stop Carson Wentz, who's been doing really well. And I was proven wrong on that. You know, they got Miles Sanders back. Maybe he got like 70, 80 yards. He didn't go over 100 yards in that game. I'm very impressed with the Giants defense. I think they're going to win more games down the stretch. And I think it's clear who's the better New York team right now.
Let's start with this. Eagles coaching staff was horrific in that game. Awful. Why aren't you running the ball? They were running all over us for the whole game, and they just stopped. And they just put into Carson Wentz. He does too much. Don't force the ball. And why are they attacking James Bradbury in a 3rd and 10? Why are you attacking James Bradbury? He's our best player on the defensive side. It didn't make any sense what the Eagles were doing. As for the Giants, I think they're the best coach team in the division. I don't think it's close. Joe Judge has brought a culture, and that's something they've believed in. Second thing, Daniel Jones' second straight game with no turnovers, that's 2 straight wins. There's a correlation there. If Daniel Jones doesn't turn the football over, they're running the football better. That offensive line continues to get better. Wayne Gallman looked pretty good, and they didn't even have Saquon Barkley. Run the football, rely on your defense. I think Patrick Graham is one of the best young defensive coordinators in the league with the way he disguises things. He made Brady look foolish. He made Carson Wentz look foolish. So I think there's some hope for these New York Football Giants. They're not as talented as these other teams. You look at it. I don't think they're as talented as the Eagles, and I think the Eagles will get better. I think everyone's going to sell their stock on the Eagles. They're still a good football team in terms of like they should be the favorite in the NFC East. They should. They're just not as well coached right now. They have the better quarterback as of now. So we'll see what happens as we go down the stretch. Both of these teams don't seem like they're going to win a game in the playoffs. Yes, the Giants have competed. I'm very happy with that. And I think the Giants will be a very good football team over the next coming years because of the culture they've established. And if Daniel Jones doesn't turn the football over, can use his legs a little bit, he'll get better. He threw a nice deep ball to Slayton. They take some shots. Garrett's been really good. Let's see what happens here. There's something brewing in New York, which I love. Eagles, I think they'll bounce back eventually. They just had a different game plan and their wrong game plan against the Giants defense.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Miles Sanders for a second. He statistically had an average game. It wasn't like a blowout game for him, but when watching him, he looked really explosive. He looked like a guy that he was 110% when he got back on the field, and he is a top 7 running back right now, coming back in terms of talent, in terms of work that he's getting. But they got to get him in the end zone. They had like Corey Clement and whoever that other guy name is.
Scott.
Yeah. Like he has to get more work in the end zone, in the red zone. And I think that's what's like preventing people from saying like, oh, Miles Sanders just like went off. He's like one of the best running backs, is because he's not getting that touchdown work. So I feel like he's not being highlighted as much as he should. Yeah.
Totally agree with you because he's on my fantasy team. He's been great. Just come on. Scott and Clement, and I lost the week. So not great for my fantasy team. So we'll watch the NFC race coming down the stretch, the NFC least here with the NFC East. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the Giants can pull it out. I want them to play some meaningful football. Now let's move to the crazy play. DeAndre Hopkins, what a catch. So Bills Cardinals, what are you taking away? Because the Bills were really in control for that football game.
I feel like everyone's talking about the catch. Readily so. It was incredible. But the Bills played a really good game. And I feel like that's being completely taken away from them because of the obvious. But you look at the Bills, Josh Allen had a really nice game. They had John Brown back. He is looking like a big piece of this offense as long as he can stay on the field. I know he went down with another injury. And their defense didn't really do enough in the end, but they were hanging with one of the most high-power offenses in the Arizona Cardinals. So when you look at the Bills, yes, from a Bills fan perspective, you should have won this game, but you got to stay positive in a way where you're in the right spot to win this division. You have the right quarterback in place. You have a good defense in place as long as they can get off the field on third down. You got to look at the positives if you're a Bills fan right now.
Let's look at both teams right here. Let's start with the Arizona Cardinals. The way their defense, they don't rush the quarterback well, but they're very athletic. They like to bring guys at the line. Vance Joseph has done a tremendous job coaching it up, confusing Josh Allen a little bit, holding them to some field goals that were usually touchdowns. And for the Bills, they got to run the football a little bit more, right? You got to use Zach Moss. He's a very good running back. He's been the guy now. And on this defensive side for Sean McDermott, they played a much better game than they had. The fact that the Arizona Cardinals added that running game with Drake and Edmonds kind of confused the Bills because they had the perfect game plan for sitting back, containing Kyler Murray. But running the football kind of forced them to say, okay, I need to bring up the safety in the box. Now Kyler Murray's like, okay, I can throw the ball or I can scramble out and run. And that was the difference in the game. I still think for the Cardinals, they're coaching. I don't trust Cliff Kingsbury yet, so I'm not putting them as a contender. For the Bills, let's see that defense and running game do better. Their only thing is they'll be in every game because they can throw. But if John Brown's out, as you said, with the injury, there could be some concern there.
Yeah, and I also think Kenyon Drake coming back was a big part of that. You know, like the Bills didn't have that much film, especially Kenyon Drake looking good. There's not much film out there of Kenyon Drake being productive. So when he goes out there and has a great game, especially out of like catching the ball out of the backfield, that catches teams by surprise. And now if the Cardinals can get that part of the game with Kenyon Drake being productive, if he was 70% of what he was last year, this Cardinal offense goes much more into the category of like a well-rounded team, having obviously the explosive plays in the passing game, but also being able to run the game and throw those little dump-off passes with Kenyon Drake.
Quick question. Are these two teams division winners? I say Cardinals comes down to this week against the Seahawks.
Yeah, I was about to
in the
say
game.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to this week. I would lean Rams right now in that division. And then even though they're a game back, and then the Bills-Dolphins, I think the Dolphins are going to win. So I don't think these teams are winning division. Because the Bills-Dolphins is going to come down to week 17, in my opinion. And I just trust this defense a little bit more right now and the coach.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think the Dolphins are a much better coach team right now, and that might be the difference. But I would still take right now, if I was betting on it, I would take the Bills to win the division, and I would take the Seahawks to win the division. Because I don't want to go against Russell Wilson, especially when the season comes to an end in week 14 to 17. That's when he shines. He's going through like a little slope right now. It happens. He's going to come back. This will be a big week tally. But even if the Seahawks lose this game, I still think they can be in contention to win the division.
Okay, let's move on to this game. I want to touch quickly on one subject here for this game. Dolphins-Chargers. Anthony Lynn. Do you fire him? If yes, what type of coach are you looking for Justin Herbert?
I'm going to say no for now, because for now, I don't think he's back next season. But Justin Herbert is in a really good spot right now. And you look at other teams that have these young quarterbacks and coaches that aren't very good. Hint, hint, New York Jets, Sam Darnold, Adam Gase. There's the argument that you don't want to stunt the QB's growth. And yes, I understand Anthony Lynn isn't like the QB whisperer that's like making Justin Herbert into what he is right now. But from a team perspective, when you fire a coach, that, you know, usually is a big ripple in the team. So I really don't want to stunt Justin Herbert's growth in any way. Keep him unless things really start to go south. I wouldn't consider last week losing to the Dolphins it going that south. Dolphins are a really good team. If it gets a lot worse, sure, yeah, you can start talking about it, but I don't think you should be fired midseason.
Going south. You don't think it's gone south yet?
No, I think it's going south, but I don't think
it's gone south.
I don't think the Dolphins-Chargers I don't think the Chargers losing to the Dolphins can be the, okay, you know what? He's out of here.
It should have been when they lost to the Broncos. That was embarrassing. You lose to the Raiders the next week. Oh my God. You got to close out games. This record right now, 2-6, should not be what it is. Justin Herbert, the Chargers are a very talented team. They've got the receivers. They got the quarterback. They've got the defense for the most part. Yes, they'll get more healthy, but they've got an offense and they got a defense. They got pass rushers. This team should not be 2-6. And it comes down to one possession games, coaching, not finishing. And it's been a problem for this football team. I think it's time for LA to go get a coach that they're going to pay, because this is ridiculous. You're stunting Herbert's growth by keeping Anthony Lynn because you're not winning football games. This team's more talented than the Raiders, in my opinion. They're more talented on the defensive side of the football. And I think they got the better quarterback. So why aren't they beating them at home? They should have won that game. And the Broncos, you're letting Dancing Drew Lock beat you. He was terrible. He got killed by the Raiders. I just don't think they got to get rid of Lynn and go pay a coach. Go say, we want our guy. You're in LA. Go get a guy, Speranos.
I want to shift the conversation a second to Miami because they deserve a lot of credit right now. As you said, they're your pick to win the AFC East. And that's surprising to a lot of people, especially coming into the season. You don't really think of them as the contenders. They're looking really good. And Tua, I've been liking him the past couple of weeks on the show. I think he's showing up enough. He had some fluky plays in there and there, but for most of the time, he was a good quarterback. We have to see him throw the ball deep a little bit more, but I think if Myles Gaskin comes back or Ahmed or whatever that running back guy comes in, this Dolphins is a really complete team, and I can't say enough about that defense. That defense is one of the best in the AFC right now, and they could really make a run for it. Ryan
Flores is the best coach right now in that division. And I think he's going to be coach of the year. You thought I was going to say best coach of the year. I don't know about that. He's one of the youngest. Defense, they play a man-to-man with Howard and Jones. They've done a great job. They implemented that scheme. They drafted that guy out of Auburn, too, has been pretty good. That corner, can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try to do that. But on the other side of the football, Tua's precision has been the key, right? We've talked about this. Tua's precision. They ran the football a little bit. That offensive line's improving, even though they have Eric Flowers, who stinks. But this team, it just feels like they're together. And that Tua factor, yes, they might not be as good on offense, but they're more consistent. Yeah. All right, let's transition to the last game. Rams, Seahawks. I know we touched on the Seahawks a little bit about where that division stands. What is your opinion on all of that? So, thing here with me, Rams have the best defense, I think, in the division. I don't think it's close. Donald has been great. The pass rusher, Floyd, he's not even a great pass rusher. He can do a lot of things. He can go into pass coverage. He stops the run really well. He's been a very good pickup for them. Also, Jalen Ramsey's been locked down. He locked down DK Metcalf. It wasn't even close. That, to me, separates this team because they can get the pass rush and they can play defense. In terms of corners, they're a very good corner team. The difference in this team is no Andrew Whitworth now. How do they protect Goff? Because when he's comfortable, like last week, Seahawks are not bringing anyone. They don't have a defense. He's comfortable. They'll make the throws. They can run the football. Everything works out for them. If he's not comfortable, I think we're going to see it this week. Rams, Bucks, right? Bucks are going to bring pressure. Todd Bowles loves to bring pressure. He's going to make Goff uncomfortable. How does he adjust? I don't think he can adjust well. He's never been great under pressure. They're not going to be able to run the football like they did last week, I don't think. So it comes down to, is Jared Goff good in pressure situations? That's the key for this football team. When he has been in no pressure, he's been great. Like against last week, Seattle, against the Giants, who don't have pass rush, he looks better. When he plays a team like the Dolphins, who can pressure him, he struggles a little bit. So that's the difference for me in Goff's progression and this team's progression, because as Goff goes, the Rams go.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting that, like, we can easily distinguish that when Jared Goff is under pressure, he is a much worse quarterback than when he's not under pressure. You can relate this to Lamar Jackson. People are figuring out how to play the Ravens because Lamar Jackson, he's getting kind of predictable in terms of their play calling, in terms of that type of offense. We're not the only ones talking about this. If teams can figure out the Rams and figure out that if you could pressure Jared Goff, he's going to be a less of a quarterback, that's going to be a problem with the Rams. So yes, Jared Goff has to prove himself. He has to get those short passes to Cooper Kupp, get him more involved, get that, like, I know this isn't fantasy, but a lot of catches, PPR catches. You got to get him like he usually is with Cooper Kupp. You got to get those catches in. So, yes, teams are going to start figuring out what the Rams are doing. So it's all up to Jared Goff to see and prove if he can be that quarterback that's good under pressure.
There's no question about the talent on this offense. These
No.
skill players might be the best in football. Woods, Cooper Kupp, the Reynolds kid, Josh Reynolds, and the rookie Van Jefferson out of Florida. They've got the weapons. Higbee, Everett, they got those guys, right? It's going to be about, can the offensive line, without an Andrew Whitworth, make Goff feel comfortable, and that's the key. And I think that's why they're going to struggle this week against Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay Bulls loves to bring pressure. But when they play the Seahawks or they face the Cardinals, they match up really well, and that's why I think they have the edge in this division as of now.
Yeah, and let's just quickly talk about the Seahawks for a second, because that is the other team in this game. Russell Wilson, he's had a lot of turnovers lately. Are you concerned about that? Is that just a fluke? What do you think?
I'm not concerned about Russell Wilson. I'm concerned about this football team, especially on the defense. Pete Carroll, I talked about it in a video this week I posted on One Reaction. Pete Carroll loves to play the cover three. He had his talent, guys. But it's a copycat league. The same thing as teams know, let's pressure Goff. That's how he feels uncomfortable. The same thing's going to happen where they know how to beat this cover three. And the talent is not good enough. And Pete Carroll doesn't adjust enough. He stays in the system. And that's why you can separate these other coaches like Bill Belichick, who knows how to adjust based on the weaknesses and strength. Pete Carroll stays in the system and says, players go play. And the Jamal Adams thing, he doesn't work in coverage. And the Jets knew that. And they emptied the tank for him. So there's going to be a question about how does Pete Carroll, does he throw some wrinkles in there? Because the good defensive coordinators, the teams are like, oh, that guy confusing. When Brady said, he confuses me. Carson Wentz, he's like, oh, Patrick Graham confused me. You know why? Because they're mixing up looks. Pete Carroll likes to stay in his defense. I think that's going to be the key. Can the Seahawks defense generate pressure, play some good pass defense, and really adjust their system, because they're going to need to if they want to win this NFC West and even win a playoff game.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning. And let's just talk about the offense for a second, because you look at the weapons. You have DK, you have Tyler Lockett. You have even David Moore, who's been playing pretty well, and if Tyler Lockett is out this week, he's going to be a factor. Russell Wilson, it hasn't been like flukes of like the receiver running their own route, them being on different pages. He's making bad decisions. And Russell Wilson is the type of quarterback that he'll make these throws, right? He'll make these sidearm throws, and the receiver catches it. And they're like, oh, like he shouldn't have thrown that, but like Russell Wilson's amazing. I like Russell Wilson, but that's a lot of turnovers for an MVP candidate. Go ahead.
No Chris Carson, no Carlos Hyde, no defense. It's on his shoulders. What is he supposed to do? Get him a run game, play some good defense, and maybe you'll see the good Russell Wilson, because he doesn't force everything. You also played against the best corner in football and the best pass rusher. So you're under duress, right? You can't throw to your top guy in Metcalf. You're going to force some things. And not having a running game, because the Rams are weak in one area. The Giants did this pretty well. You can run on them if you could double team Donald, because these linebackers are not great. They couldn't run the football. They can't. They don't have their running backs. So it's going to be tough for Russell Wilson. I'm not reading too much into that. He'll bounce back once these running backs bounce back. Okay, so now, great segment. I like that little discussion, trying to bring in some new things. We're going to come back with our picks. We're going to go through our picks. I had a really good week last week. I won both the spread picks over Jesse. The Giants, of course, they won. Patriots went outright too. I took both of those as underdogs. Seahawks over the Rams and Bills over the Cardinals. We both did terrible on our underdogs. Jesse got a little unlucky with the Hopkins catch. Locks, we both won. I had the Browns. He had the Saints. Bold predictions. Chubb and Hunt, I said combine over 250 scrimmage yards. They had 252, so I was really lucky there. But a good week there. And Brady threw 3 instead of 5 touchdowns. Game of the week, you had the Colts and I had the Titans, which eventually lost for me as the Colts dominated, and then that was awful. And I forgot there were 3 parts of the game, special teams as well. Okay, Jesse, who you got? Browns, Eagles in Cleveland.
I'm going to take the Browns in this one. They're favored 3.5. I think they can cover this, and they'll cover it easily. We just talked about it. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb being back, this Browns team is going to come in back to their old form. Kareem Hunt, he can't be a 3-down back. He can be a really good one, but for a Browns team like this, they don't need him as a 3-down back, and that makes him even more explosive on 3rd down, catching the ball in the backfield. This team is now complete with both running backs being back, and they'll beat the Eagles fine.
I think the Eagles match up really well with the Browns. They got Fletcher Cox to stop the run a little bit. Yes, these linebackers are a little shaky, but I think they can stop the run to an extent. It's going to be 59 and rainy. It's going to be a little warmer. That is cold weather. I think this Eagle team, everyone's selling their stock. They're going to bounce back a little bit because these guys are getting healthy. Alshon Jeffrey another week. Miles Sanders another week. Dallas Goedert another week. So I think these pieces are going to come together. They're going to simplify the playbook, right? You're going to run with Miles Sanders. You're going to run with Boston Scott. And then you're going to throw the football to your tight ends, Goddard, and take the game out of Carson Wentz's hands. I still think he's the better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. And I think this is a must-win here for the Eagles just to get back on track. Everyone's selling. I just think the public perception of this line is a little bit overvalued. I think the Eagles on the road, they tend to bounce back in places where you don't think they will. I like the Eagles here to cover the 3.5-point spread.
And next game, we have the Packers and the Colts. Colts are favored by 2. Who do you have?
Colts match up really well here. They can punch them. The teams that beat the Packers punch the Packers in the mouths, and that's what the Colts do. They're going to run the football. Wilkins, Hines, Taylor. They got 3 guys that can run the football. They're going to take the game out of Rivers' hands, place a good defense. They're going to double Adams. I think they just match up really well because Darius Leonard in this defense, Matt Eberflus, the coach, who I love, this defense is very good, and I think they'll control the Packers. Rodgers could get frustrated, and if they go down early, you know what happens there. Remember the last time they went down early, it was against the Bucs, and they got blown out 38-10. Yes, the Colts are not as explosive on offense, but they could be better coached.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to take the Packers in this one because I don't trust the Colts offense, and I think the Colts defense isn't going to do enough to stop the Packers offense in Devontae Adams. Even if they double him, you're seeing that Aaron Rodgers can connect with guys on deep passes to, MVS and Lazard, and there's a lot of guys out there that are building connections with Rodgers. Rodgers is building trust in them. I feel like as the season goes on, Rodgers is gaining trust in his receivers. And with Adams being back, those receivers can step back into a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 range where they don't have to be relied on too much. And, of course, you have Aaron Jones. Even against that stingy Colts defense, I'm going to take the Packers here.
Underdog of the week. Jesse, go ahead.
I'm going to take the Bengals over the Washington football team. I think all of a sudden I'm enjoying watching the Bengals offense. I don't know if I'm like alone in that, but I feel like they're starting to become like an exciting team to watch and have a lot of receivers, like especially T. Higgins. Like I want to watch T. Higgins play. And I think that's a statement of like where this Bengals team is going. You have Tyler Boyd. I'm not even going to talk about AJ Green because he's going to be gone in a year or two. But Joe Burrow is building connections with these young receivers. And they have Joe Mixon. If Gio Bernard is there, this is not really making a big difference there. Both running backs are good on that offense. Mm-hmm. It all comes down to that defense, though. If the Bengals defense can do enough to stop a lackluster Washington team, but I'm going to take the Bengals here because of their offense.
Just 2 things to just touch on. You really enjoyed watching the Bengals put up 7 points last week. Really good performance. Good performance there. And you don't think Mixon Bernard's a big difference? Look at last week. If Mixon's in the game, I think I agree with that pick over Washington. But if Bernard's in, that could be a 50-50 game. I like the Titans here over the Ravens. It's a 6-point spread, and I think they got a chance to win outright. Derrick Henry, the Ravens defense is susceptible to one thing, running the football. They did it last year, and I think they'll do it again. Derrick Henry gets back on track. And the worst part of the Tennessee defense is the passing defense. Lamar Jackson doesn't throw the ball a lot down the field against these receivers. I think they'll be running the football, and I think the Titans with Jeffrey Simmons in the middle, that's the guy to watch. If he can control the line of scrimmage really with no Ronnie Stanley too, I think the Titans, they should not be 6-point underdogs, and I think they win this game outright, possibly over the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, and let's move on to the locks of the week. You can go ahead with yours first.
Yeah, Andy Reid off a bye. It's very simple. He's always great off a bye. His team lost to the Raiders earlier in the year. Remember that 40-32 crazy game. Chiefs off a bye. They're getting healthy. I just think this is the best team in football, and it's not even close. The offense, the defense, they can win in every way. They can run the football and play defense. They have a great passing defense. The run defense is a little susceptible, which I have a little bit of a concern of, but I think they're just going to be stacking guys at the box, Yes, the Raiders will get their fair share of points, but I think the Chiefs in the end, you trust Patrick Mahomes, you trust Tyreek Hill, you trust Travis Kelce, you trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you trust Le'Veon Bell. I can keep going. This Chiefs offense, this Chiefs defense, both too talented. Chiefs win and cover.
I do want to say something quickly about the Raiders. I just saw something that almost the entire Raiders defense was just put on the COVID-19 reserve list.
There you go.
So that's all pending if that game plays Sunday. We're recording this on Wednesday, so I'm sure when you guys are watching this, we'll have more clarity on that. But for my lock of the week, I'm going to take the Vikings over the Cowboys. I feel like the Vikings defense coming into the season was really hyped, and they weren't good. The Vikings defense wasn't good, but very recently, this Vikings defense is coming back into form, and obviously their offense is doing well. Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league, and you're going against the Cowboy team where they just keep changing the quarterback that's in. I don't know. It might even be the right decision to put Andy Dalton back in the game. You keep changing these quarterbacks back and forth. It's just like you're not going to win a game when you have a different quarterback every week. So I don't think this one's even going to be close. I think the Vikings match up really well against the Cowboys.
Only concern is that the Cowboys are off a bye, and Mike McCarthy is very good off a bye. So I think they can compete here at home, even on the road. It's in a dome, so I think they'll compete and run the football. Vikings defense, just to mention one more thing, they played the Bears, so let's relax on hyping up this Viking defense. They should do well again this week because they're playing the Cowboys. But I like that pick, Vikings over the Cowboys. Bold prediction of the week, I'll start. I'm going to stick with that Colt Packer game. I think the trio of Hines, Wilkins, and Taylor run for 150 plus. So they're going to run the football right down the Packer throat and lead them to victory. 150 plus.
I'm gonna take in the Falcons Saints game right now. The over under is 50.5. I'm gonna say they go over that and go over the 60-point mark in that game. I feel like these two teams, hopefully Jameis Winston. Honestly, if anything, I think Jameis Winston's gonna help here because Drew Brees doesn't throw the ball downfield, and you have a guy that Jameis Winston who he might hit those guys downfield on those deep passes, and that might change the Saints team from being a dump off to Alvin Kamara, slants to Michael Thomas team to a 60-yard bombs like you remember the Saints a couple years ago. So I feel like that paired with the Falcons, Matt Ryan, Julio, Calvin Ridley, they're all getting healthy. I think this is going to be a shootout.
Love it. Okay. Those are our picks, and that's our transition to game of the week. It's our Thursday night football game. It is the Arizona Cardinals on the road in Seattle in a big divisional game. Seahawks are favored by 3. Jesse, who you got?
This is a massive game for this division, and I am going to take Russell Wilson to bounce back. He's going to bounce back big with Tyler Lockett in the game. I feel like a lot of this is to depend, like Tyler Lockett versus David Moore. That's a big difference. So assuming Tyler Lockett is in, I'm going to take the Seahawks. And either way, this is going to be a close game. I'm going to take the Seahawks. If they don't, I think the Cardinals will take this one, because they're going to have to rely on the Seahawks offense, and that Seahawks offense is going to be a lot less explosive without Tyler Lockett in there.
The Cardinals match up well with Seattle, which is my concern, because they got all these athletic guys in the secondary, and their linebackers with Isaiah Simmons and Hicks. So they're going to match up well. They're going to keep Russell Wilson contained. My concern is who wins the matchups outside. I like that point about Lockett. Is he going to win his matchup? If he's playing, that changes the game a little bit from the last time they played. It was a very good game last time. The Seahawks barely lost. I think I think this is like a bounce back spot for Seattle, but it's a very close game. So it's going to be around that spread. Seattle should win the game because they're at home. They've lost 2 straight. Russell Wilson off 2 straight losses. I don't know if I can go against that. The concern for me is this defense. They figure out something. They faced Murray before. I expect Carroll to adjust a little bit. So I'm going to take the Seahawks to win it. I don't know about the cover, but I think they win 30-27. So right on the number. Okay, great week. Big Thursday, Week 11 edition. We'll see you on Thanksgiving.